Why Cam Thomas is the most underrated player in the NBA. After having a decent amount of success in the past, so far early on into this season, Cam Thomas is playing at another level. He's putting up ridiculous scoring numbers while also being pretty efficient while doing so. And in my opinion, based on the production that he's showing so far with the Nets, I don't necessarily think he's getting the respect he deserves based on how well he's been playing so far. But quickly, before we get the video started, for those of you who may not know, I'm JuicySports. I make opinionated NBA content. And if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. I also want to quickly mention that I recently started up an MMA channel, and if you guys are interested in that, the link will be in the description. But anyways, let's get into it. Cam Thomas was originally drafted with the 27th overall selection during the 2021 NBA draft by the Brooklyn Nets. And originally when Cam was coming into the NBA, there definitely were some question marks, but one thing that was pretty certain with this guy is he could score the basketball. In college, he was doing a phenomenal job at scoring basically from all three levels, but mostly from that mid-range area and driving all the way to the basket. And once Cam made it to the NBA in his first season, although he wasn't putting up incredible numbers, there was definitely something there. As in his first year, he ended up averaging 8.5 points per game on 2.4 boards and 1.2 assists. And like I said before, those numbers don't necessarily jump out at you, but if you watch Cam in his rookie season, it was pretty clear that he was showing some spurts and some flashes of what he could potentially be in the long-term future. And of course, coming out of college, as everybody knew, the main goal and the main ability that Cam was going to have was score the basketball, and he was doing so pretty effectively in his rookie season. Now moving on to his second season, he did a really nice job at bumping up his numbers slightly, averaging 10.6 points per game, 1.7 boards, and also adding 1.4 assists. And in that second season, it was relatively similar to his rookie year, but in certain spurts, he was doing a really nice job at showing what he could potentially become, while also overall playing a little bit better in year 2 than he did in year 1. Now, after those 2 seasons that Cam played with the Nets, a lot of fans understood that this guy had a lot of scoring potential, but at the same time, he wasn't necessarily there yet to the point where he could be a legitimate 6th man of the year type candidate, or even a guy in the starting lineup that just was very productive offensively. But fortunately for Nets fans, and fortunately for Cam Thomas himself, in his 3rd season, which is this year, he's having a complete breakout year. As this season, he's averaging a little bit over 20 points per game on 3.8 boards and 2.1 assists. Now, I will say it is very early on into the season. It's a very small sample size, only 8 games so far, but when you watch Cam out there, it's pretty clear that this guy just looks like a completely different player. And those flashes that we were seeing from him in year 1 and year 2 are a lot more consistent now, and he's even made significant improvements to look even better now than he did in those spurts in the past. But I would probably say the biggest difference for Cam this season as compared to the previous years in the past is I think he's a lot more comfortable out there offensively, he's getting more playing time, and most importantly, he's a lot more efficient. Because there's a lot of guys at the NBA level that have the capability to put up 20 plus points on any given night, but if they're not going to be efficient with that, they're not going to get that many minutes, they're not going to be all that successful in the NBA. And I think for Cam Thomas in the past, he kind of fell into that category of a guy that had scoring potential, but he wasn't nearly efficient enough in order to get legitimate playing time. But when you see what he's able to do this season, he's clearly able to put up those 20 plus points on any given night, but also be a lot more efficient with it, and I think that's the biggest difference for Cam this year. But a question that some of you may be having at this point is what specifically about Cam makes him to be such a great offensive player? Well, in my opinion, I think it comes down to a couple different factors, but I think the main factor has to be his overall versatility. Because when you look at Cam's game, it's pretty clear that this guy can score on you in a lot of different ways. From that 3-point range, Cam definitely has a pretty nice ability with a catch and shoot 3-point jump shot, also has an ability to create for himself from that range, whether you talk about crossover, sidestep, or step back, and even at times, Cam has shown the ability to have pretty good range out there as well. But moving on to his mid-range shooting ability, this is also a pretty good aspect of Cam's game, as he has a pretty nice ability to hit that one dribble pull-up, at times hit that post turnaround fadeaway, cross over into a mid-range jumper, sidestep, step back, and basically from that mid-range, Cam Cam has a lot of different abilities that makes him so efficient and effective. But the great thing about Cam is he's not just a shooter out there. Driving all the way to the basket, he also has a really nice ability. As although he's not necessarily the most athletic guy in the NBA, he does have a good amount of athleticism and he does a really nice job at just being crafty once driving to the basket and finishing around players with crafty layups. Whether you talk about his left or right hand, also has a good amount of strength as well, which gives him the ability to finish through contact and get N1 finishes. But overall, when you look at Cam's offensive abilities from top to bottom, I think it's pretty clear that he's really good in all three levels. And I think due to that factor, it makes him such a dangerous player to defend and a guy that really has become a great offensive player. Now, although there is a ton to love about his overall offensive ability, there definitely are some concerns about Cam, not only at this point, but also going forward in the long-term future. And one of those concerns is definitely his overall passing and playmaking ability, because I mentioned this in a lot of my videos, but if you're a guy that's an extremely talented individual scorer and you have a solid ability to facilitate to your teammates, that just makes your team a team that's a lot more difficult to defend, but also individually makes you a guy that's more difficult to defend because teams know they can't just send double or triple teams to you because you're going to be able to find open guys. And I think at times Cam has shown the ability to facilitate a little bit, but for the most part, I definitely think there is a lot of improvement that he needs to make in that aspect of his game. Now, besides that, I think another concern is his overall defense, because although he does play solid defense at times, there's other times where he definitely doesn't play the best defensively, so I definitely do think that's a concern as well. But overall, when you look at Cam's game from top to bottom, there is a lot to like, and I think there's a lot more to like about his game than not to like. And I definitely think the Brooklyn Nets found an absolute gem late in the first round with this guy. But the next question that some of you may be wondering at this point are, what are my official predictions for Cam in the long-term future? Well, in my opinion, I definitely think Cam has an extremely bright future. Whenever you have a younger guy that consistently makes improvements season after season, and also a guy that especially made a significant improvement from year 2 to year 3 so far, I definitely think that means there's a ton of promise with this guy. I definitely do like a lot of what he's able to do offensively. I do think he's one of those players that are just very, very difficult to defend. He's either going to draw fouls very effectively, or he's just going to be a straight up bucket, which he has been a ton of times throughout his career so far. And in the long-term future, I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if this guy turns into a 6th man of the year type candidate. Just a guy who comes off the bench and has the capability of putting up 25 plus on any given night. Or if he ended up being a starter and being relatively close to an all-star type of guy, I wouldn't be surprised about that either. I do think there is a lot of promise. There's a lot of different directions his career could go, and a lot of those directions are definitely positive ones. And I think the real determination on whether or not Cam is going to be a 6th man of the year type guy, or even a guy that's a little bit more valuable as a starter, is really going to come down to what team he plays for and what that team eventually needs. If he stays with the Brooklyn Nets and they add a ton of pieces, maybe he could be that 6th man of the year type guy. But if he goes to a different organization that maybe doesn't have as many pieces, I could see him being a very productive starter. But I guess only time will tell what does end up happening with Cam's career as time goes on. But I will say I am extremely excited to see what does. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think Cam Reddish is one of the more underrated players in the NBA, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, check one of these 2 videos popping up now. And until the next time, peace out, guys.